Morning. It's another December Sunday and I've just come up to do just a few little bits of stuff. I thought it had warmed up a little bit this morning, looked out and thought, oh, there's no frost, but when I stepped out I thought, oh gosh, it seems really cold. It said 2 degrees centigrade in the car. Got up here and there is a bit of frost on the ground actually, and it's just checked that thermostat there and it's saying 0 pretty much, so yeah, it feels like it. Might have to put my big coat on in a bit. I'll show you what bits I brought up. So in the interest of tidying the shed, I've actually bought a few of these. They're like kitchen tubs really, and I didn't really know what size things I needed because, you know, until you put everything together in the little groups of what you want to store, like all your water butt things, all your rogue screws that need chucking into a separate tub because you can't be bothered sorting them out, and you know, labels, that sort of thing. I don't know what size tubs I need for each of those, so I thought, well, I'll get a mixed bag just for, this were £4, I thought it were £5, but it were £4 when I've looked on the receipt, so that can't be bad. So I can organise a few bits in the shed on those shelves in that at last. I brought the little motorbike battery up in its little bucket, just to see if I can get the pump in the shed working and just pipe a little bit of the lower IBC tank stored water into the upper one. I tried it the other day and it was a complete fail. I filmed it and everything because I thought, oh, this will be interesting for you to see, and it just kind of like the pump didn't work and then it leaked everywhere, and I think it was because the outside pipe was frozen, so obviously it was trying and it was failing, to be fair. So we'll give that another go today and see if we can get some of that water shifted if that pipe isn't frozen, preventing it. After work yesterday I went down the shop, so I went to this little industrial park that we've got where I bought the little storage boxes, and I ended up kind of buying more presents for myself than for other people, so I'll show you what I got. Useless but cute. I got this cute little bell with a bird on. And I thought, oh, that can go outside the shed somewhere. I mean, I don't know where because there's not a lot of frontage to it left now. There's a trellis for the wisteria and all sorts of stuff, but it were a £5. It were reduced, and I thought, oh, that's so cute. So it's going to go somewhere. I mean, it might even be able to hang off the big compost heap at the front, but I just feel like if somebody sees it who's sort of trespassing and wandering up, if there's any kids or something, they might just wind the neighbours up by ringing it, I don't know. So I might have to go on the shed instead. I'm just hoping it doesn't waft too much in the wind and annoy anybody. Yeah, I thought that was so cute to put on the shed, just to further prettify the outside and just take a little bit of emphasis off what's happening on the inside at the moment with the mess. So yeah, we'll drill in hand, get that put up. Couldn't resist. Baby Christmas tree. Picea glauca, I think you say it, a little mini spruce. Very slow growing. I've got one of these at home. I put one in last year in a little pot out front of the house, and I did put tiny baubles on it last year, and it's just so sweet, isn't it? But yeah, apparently very slow growing, and you can tell that because mine at home hardly grew anything last year, but reckons a couple of inches a year, and they only get up to I think it said something like it's 7 foot tall in about 25 years. Or were it 7 metres? I don't know, but anyway, not a huge thing. So it might temporarily go in a pot because I don't really know where this should live. I've not created a legitimate space for it because, I mean, it were an impulse buy the other day. But anyway, I want to get it put somewhere and get some baubles put on it just for a bit of joy up at the plot because we're getting nearer to Christmas. And another one of mine said I wouldn't do it and then did it anyway, and we'll just see if these get put in or not. Bulbs. More bulbs. What have we got? 45 in one and 50 in the other. I mean, I don't know whether they'll all be decent. I'll have to check through them. They were meant to be £10 a box at a big box, you know, a popular UK DIY store. Reduced to 50p a box. So for what it is, I thought, well, do you know what, if I end up not managing to plant them, who cares? But for that, I'm going to see if I can poke at least a few of them in. It'd be lovely in spring to come up here and have a few daffodils and crocus and that sort of thing coming up. But we'll just see if I can find some spots just to sort of scatter them around, and if I've got time. I mean, it can wait for another day, to be fair. Although it's getting a bit late for them now, but I don't care, I can chance it. But not massive priority, I've got other stuff to do, but if I get them in, nice. Another extra little bonus. I suppose I should tell you what's in them. There's a little, well, let's see what it says on the back. I haven't got my glasses on, so bear with. There's a tulip character, it says. I guess that's that yellow one. Have a little look at them. Right, commit that to memory. Yeah, so a yellow tulip, a white daffodil narcissus. That says it gets to 35 centimetres, so that's an alright sort of size. Hyacinthus orientalis blue jacket, Iris hollandica sapphire beauty. That says 50 centimetres tall, that should be nice. And an allium as well. What's that say? 80. Yeah, oh, I guess that's that one, that white one. And then that one, my favourite flower of all time, the snake's head fritillary. Lovely little woodland plant, they're absolutely gorgeous. I had a book when I was a kid of like fairies and various, you know, things like that in, and I remember one of them had one of these for a little hat, and I just thought it was gorgeous, that checkerboard pattern in this little illustration, and ever since then they've always been my favourite flower. So I've got a few planted in the lawn at home, although they don't do very well. It's very clay soil. Even though I planted them quite deep and I put some gravel in the bottom, they're not coming up brilliantly, to be fair. So I'll put those, try and think somewhere a bit shady, maybe at the back of the plot where I've got like a little mini bit of a shrub and some bits underneath there. I might be able to squirrel those under there, and that might be the best spot for them. We've got tate little mini daffodils, crocus aqua, so some little sort of purpley coloured crocus, iris reticulata harmony, that's a nice one, 15 centimetre tall. So we've got a big iris in that other one and a little baby one there, little bluey coloured one, and a muscari white magic, which are, you know, another little tiny grape hyacinth, the little white ones, and they're lovely too because they come out really early. So yeah, cute. We'll see how many of those we get on with it. Like I say, if I don't put any in, such is life, you know, for £1 for both of them, then it's alright, isn't it? From the little sort of sewing section as well in this shop I went into for £1, I got a little, it's like a little chalk pencil thing, you know, the little rubber thing on the end of it, little eraser. I won't be using that because it's actually for when you mark up fabric for cutting and sewing and whatnot. So that won't work very well for what I want it for. But got a tiny little chalk pencil there, because I got this from work, this tiny little sort of chalkboard sample there, and that were a little sample because we do sliding wardrobes, and at one point they had like a little chalkboard finish that you could have maybe for kids' rooms or something like that, and it was discontinued, so this sample needed chucking away, and I thought, that's spot on, I'll put that in the shed and it can be my little to-do list. I mean, it ain't big enough, is it? And I'm quite ham-fisted, I don't write that small, so. But anyway, rather than chuck it in the bin, I thought if I screw that up on the door or something like that in the shed and then get myself one of these, which I finally now got, I can just make myself some little notes and that sort of thing. And it's just another thing that's reused into that I might use and I might not, but we'll see if we can get that put up while I've got the drill up here as well. So I'll get the shed open and we'll get on with a few of these little simple jobs, I think, first. Now, we're just going to have to interject here because what happened next was a little bit unexpected and slightly threw my plans for the day. So on this day I thought I won't film myself unlocking the shed because I've done that a million times and you know how it goes. We'll just cut that bit out, and I wish I had, because I went up to the shed and it's got my little pallet that was out of the greenhouse from the other day leant up against the door. And I just, in passing, thought, did I leave that against the door? I thought I left it against one of the beds. So I didn't think that much of it, and I kind of chucked it out of the way and unlocked the door as normal. And at that point, the shed door fell forward onto me. Now, granted, this little artistic dramatisation that I've so stunningly created for you. It's a little bit of, it is an exaggeration, I must admit, because the shed door's really light, and all it did was it fell forward, and I caught it and just sort of shifted it to the side. But it's at that point I realised we've been broken into, haven't we? And 4 screws had been taken out of the hinges on the shed door, and then they'd been in, and then just pushed the door back up and put the pallet against it just to hold it up, just to make it maybe a little bit less obvious. At a quick glance, it didn't look like anything were missing. It looked like nothing had moved at first. So I just leant the door back up against the shed, and then I went running round the site looking at everybody else's sheds and seeing if the same had happened to them. And yeah, a lot of them, I think they tried them all, apart from the doors where they were difficult to get into. There's some of them where they've got really awkward sort of screws to undo, like you know, flathead screws, or some of the doors have absolutely nothing if it's like a plastic shed. But the ones where they could unscrew the hinges like mine, they've been into them. And my plot neighbour just above me, his door's really old, and a panel were missing out of it anyway, but they'd completely booted in all the bottom part of the panel, and they'd been into that. And I know for a fact he had 1 or 2 little bits in there because he'd mentioned it before. And we're quite lucky because most people on that site, there's only like 17 and a half, technically 17 plots up there, and most of us are on a WhatsApp group together, which it's really useful when something like this happens, clearly, because I were able to put a load of photos of the damage to the shed doors and anything else up there as I went around, and people started noticing and responding, and a lot of people did actually come down. Even people where I said, oh, it don't look like anything's been touched, a lot of folk did turn up to have a look. My plot neighbour above me, where all the bottom panel of his door had been kicked in, he came up and his rotavator had gone, and a couple of batteries and a petrol can, and you know, there were a few bits and stuff that he'd actually lost. But he had the forethought, fortunately, to go and have a look around the perimeter of the site, just thinking that maybe they're going to come back later for these bits and bobs that maybe they couldn't cart off, you know, when they'd found them. And he did find his rotavator, luckily, so we were able to get it back home. And the little site, there's 3 or 4 plots down at the bottom of the site where it's like a bit of a business / charity, and they had 3 of their buildings I'd taken some photos of, looked like they'd been into, and they've got some containers which are more secure, so they were okay. But the lady that runs that came down as well and had a good look around and started tidying up and putting things back in order down there, and she found a few of his bits and bobs as well. Anything she found that she wasn't sure about, she brought up and said, you know, whose is this kind of thing. And it looks like the vast majority of things got recovered, and actually there's very minimal damage, really. I think the most damage was to my pal where they kicked the bottom of the door in. But I'd taken up my drill just thinking there were a couple of little small jobs I might have needed it for, and I borrowed him those, and he managed to get his door fixed with some bits of scrap wood that he had as well. So that were really lucky. And mine, there were only 4 screws to just put back into the door, and then I could rehang it, and it were fine. And when I had a look in mine, they'd gone on the shelf where, I mean, it's messy, as you'll have seen a few videos ago. I put a mini tour of the shed, and it, you know, is a little bit of a tip, which I think were a saving grace. Well, that, and coupled with the fact that there's nothing in there that's particularly of any value, I've been very careful not to leave anything in there that I'm not bothered about walking. A lot of the tools are even second hand that are in there, or if not, they're very old and been repaired. I snapped my spade in half one day, and James took it to work and he welded it back up, and so, I mean, even my spade's a little bit of a you know, it's past its best now. So I've made sure that there's not a lot up there that's of any value to anybody whatsoever, which is a really good tip for you. But yeah, coupled with that and it being a mess, they'd gone along the shelf where I've just got some bits of containers. I've got, like, you know, some tea, coffee things, and a tub that's got some like antiseptic cream and some wipes and plasters and bits of stuff like that. They'd gone into that and then kind of chucked it on the floor, and fortunately it kind of landed and slid down a big sheet of cardboard and against something else, and it had not even, the bits inside it hadn't even tipped up and gone on the floor, so it were actually like just scoop it up and put it back on the shelf. So I were really lucky that nothing much at all had been disturbed in mine. So yeah, quick fix to me to put it back right, especially because I had the drill up there as well, and then I was kind of back cracking on with the jobs that I mentioned that I had to do, or at least some of them as usual. But it does make you feel really weird. I mean, if you've ever had it happen, because unfortunately it's not a very uncommon occurrence for various sorts of mischief to happen on allotment sites. I mean, some of them are quite big and they might be a bit remote-ish, you know, and things can happen where they don't really get noticed for a while. I think the saving grace of ours is that there's houses round the vast majority of it, so there's a lot of neighbours there who are, they're used to the usual people coming and going, and we're used to sort of seeing them, and if anything's a little bit amiss, sometimes the alarm does kind of get raised. But we've got no security, we've no fencing, no gates, nothing. We've just got a really piddly little sign hidden under a tree that nobody takes any notice of anyway, even if they do see it. So it's been a bit of a bugbear, and we have asked the council before to sort us out and get us some security, because that site, it's ended up where it kind of went a bit downhill and there weren't a lot of people there looking after it or doing anything with the plots. So I think it's always been overlooked by the council for really having much in the way of money spent on it. But most plots now, well, I think all of it's full. They're all taken over. There's maybe 2 or 3 that are not really actively being used much because of various reasons. But yeah, now a lot of people are up there doing things, taking pride in it, spending money, spending time, all that kind of thing. We really do need to push again and see if they'll sort something out, because we do have trouble, especially with trespassers, and when you do tell them, oh, it's private, you know, you've got to be invited on and you're not a plot holder. I know personally I've had a lot of verbal abuse from people. It don't matter how you approach them, whether you're nice as pie, all the rest of it, we do get trouble, and there's kids coming on and stuff like that, and we do need some security. But yeah, just a little bit of advice. Don't leave your shed necessarily like Fort Knox, because people think, oh, there must be a good reason, there must be something good in there. And if they can't get in quietly and with making no damage, if they are able to just bust into it with a flagstone or whatever, make a load of noise, because you might not have anybody in the vicinity around you to hear it, then you're going to come and find that you've had maybe a load of stuff nicked and a load of damage to try and sort out as well. And if you don't leave much in there, your main problem is going to be putting right the damage, and that can be a real pain, and it's quite heartbreaking really. For a lot of people, the allotment plots are a place to get a bit of respite from your day-to-day life, and the precious spaces really. It's a bit like somebody invading your home to a certain degree, and it's, yeah, I did feel a little bit weird. I did feel weird the rest of the day because of it, but I think because I've not left anything up there that's thievable, so I've lost nothing, and I kind of was mentally prepared for it, so I was only a certain amount of upset, because it's been like, oh, finally, you know, it's finally happened. It was slightly expected, so yeah, I was kind of prepared for it in every sense really, and I'm lucky I've come away quite lightly. And I mean, it can often be worse if there's vandals just go up just for the sheer devilment of it, and, you know, trying to break things and, you know, smash glass and stuff like that. That's worse. That's worse than somebody literally going to just take something that they can flog or something like that. And I think going into these times where cost of living, all the rest of it going through the roof, I think people are getting more and more desperate, and it might be that break-ins like that, even on allotment plots, are going to increase. So yeah, just be aware of it. And I mean, there's not a lot you can really do about if people can get in and steal your produce, which is, it's heartbreaking again, it is that, but again, it can sort of happen. But at least, I mean, you can't really pack up, you know, your lettuces and stuff like that necessarily and take them home if they're in the ground, but you can take your mower home. So yeah, just be wise that if you leave it up there, it could walk, and you kind of look to yourself to blame really, you know, if you leave stuff up there. So, but yeah, not really the day that I'd kind of had planned, but I was able to get back to where I was originally and get a few little bits of stuff done. So we'll rejoin with me putting the shed door back on and then, you know, getting cracked on with a few bits of jobs. Pump's working, only a tiny leak, so you know it's more than I could ask for, really. Shed door's back on, and that thing's up. Right, okay, so got bell to do. Maybe do that in a bit and all. Pump's working. Oh, it's better. Yeah, so not as much done as would like to have got done today, with all of us having the sheds broken into. I'm kind of grateful, to be fair, that the shed's a tip, because I mean they kind of climbed over the wheelbarrow and pulled a few bits off the shelf, and it were like bits of tea and coffee things and the medical box with my plasters in and bits of stuff like that that were just kind of, well, it's still there, to be fair, I haven't shifted it yet. So I think, yeah, to be fair, having a messy shed, they kind of look at it and go, I'll try it next one, see if there's out that I can grab. So maybe there's something to be said for that. It might have paid off. But like I say, yeah, there's not worth really taking in here. They didn't stop to make a brew. I do have a bit more time to get something done. I'm just thinking, I do kind of still need to lift those dahlias. And that area's clear because I cut them down the other day, so, and it's right up at the top under the sheet that's easiest to get to, so I think I'll just go and see about lifting those. In here somewhere I do have the bag of paper shreddings, or I should find it, so I can store them in that and take them home, and that'll insulate them over winter. So let's go and actually get something plot-like done.
catching fire. I just feel so fine with this fire, this fire, this fire, this fire.
So that's me all done for the day. I didn't do a little outro while I were up there because my plot neighbour was literally right at the side of the greenhouse fixing his door. So I thought rather than be weird, I'd just let you watch me tidy up a little bit and then get off home. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one. Good morning. It's another December Sunday. I'll start that again because I looked over here, didn't I? Right. I also got from the little sewing section a little... That was a thing falling off. Right, so I'll get shed opened up and we'll crack on with something. It's poltergeist, isn't it? Shed poltergeist. Greenhouse poltergeist. My pocket's wet. Oh, God. Oh, what else?